And you can go.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Adam Hall, and I am the Community and Economic Development Manager for Fifth Third Bank Kentucky. And I am really excited to be able to present this budgeting and savings workshop this afternoon for the Center for Accessible Living. We think that understanding how to manage your finances can be very impactful in helping to have a less stressful life and to be able to achieve your goals for what you're hoping for in life. We know everybody works hard for their money, and we want to make sure that we give you some tools and resources today to try to help you hold on to more of it and use it for things that are important for you. So if you want to advance to the next slide. So again, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to provide this information. We at Fifth Third are very committed to the communities that we serve and making sure that people have access to these resources, particularly at a time where there's a lot of uncertainty. So next slide, please. So this is one of those questions that a lot of times we get, how many people in this country have a budget? And if you flip to the next slide, it's about 7 in 10 is what is reported. I think that probably is a little high. I don't think that 7 out of 10 people have a written budget, but if you're one of those people that don't currently have a written budget, we're gonna talk through some of that today, and we're gonna talk through how to develop that, what I like to call a spending plan, not a budget. A budget sounds like you're being punished, but a spending plan, we're all gonna spend money and we wanna have a plan on how to spend it. So next slide, please. So this is an interesting question as well. One of the things that we know about money is that money can create a lot of stress. And so if you are cohabitating with somebody else, or if you're married, how many couples actually hide finances from their spouse? So if we go to the next slide and get that answer, it's surprising, 41%. So nearly half, and that would be an indicator that money is a stressful topic within those households. So if we go to the next slide. So what we're going to talk to today, and the next slide is going to break down for us, is how what tools we use to develop the spending plan. So if we go to that next slide, we've got 3 components to a budget or a spending plan, and that's income. And there's a variety of different incomes. Some of them are listed there. Salary from work, income from savings. We could also include Social Security disability payments or other types of payments. And then we have our expense categories, mortgage. In some instances, we'll have childcare, transportation, variety of different things there. And the third stool is really important. And I think a lot of times when we think about developing a spending plan, we focus exclusively on income and expenses, money coming in, money going out. One of the important things that you need to really build into your spending plan is savings and developing wealth plans. And so I know that many people on Social Security disability will have asset tests, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we get into this, but we are going to talk about some strategic savings goals that you can develop that will really help you take some of the stress out of the day-to-day life. And so when I talk to people about developing a spending plan, I really get down to the very basics. And so the first step in the process for me is anybody, if you live with anybody else who spends or makes money in your household, get together and have a conversation about why you're going down the road of putting yourself on a spending plan or developing a spending plan. And everybody who watches this is going to have a different set of reasons as to why they want to do that. For some people, it may be that your long-term goal is to go back to school, or it may be that you want to buy a new car, or that you want to buy a house, or you want to deposit for another apartment. It could be that you want to save enough money to take yourself to Disney World in the fall. And so a variety of different reasons, any of them are valid, and we want to make sure that we all understand that. And the reason that I start with that is that what happens is typically in a lot of households, one person is the champion of the budget. and they're the ones that are keeping track of everything. They're the ones that are trying to make make ends meet and make sure that everything gets paid and gets done on time. And that gets really exhausting. And so, especially if you have children, you drive by McDonald's and the kids want to stop and get a Happy Meal, or you want to go to the movies with your significant other, but you can't because it's not built into your budget. And that over time just wears you down and makes you feel like all you're doing is just working to pay your bills, and that's it. And so if you frame it around, we have this long-term goal, we have an intermediate term goal or a short-term goal that we're working towards, then you can reframe that conversation. And so it's no longer, this activity is not in the budget, but we're not doing that because we're working towards something longer term. We're working towards that house or new car or vacation for whatever that is. And that should help to make things a little easier for you. And as we go into this next slide, taking account, the next step in this process that I encourage people to do is really the hardest step. And the hardest step is because I would encourage you, we're getting ready to come up on the first of the month here this week in October. I would encourage you to write down all of your expenses for a full month. And even if you're watching this later, start and keep track for 30 days. Write everything. If you buy a pack of gum, you buy soda, you buy a bag of chips, anything that you spend money on, write it down and keep track of that. And at the end of your month, what I will tell you to do is start totaling those up and putting them into categories. And some of the categories would be, eating out or entertainment or groceries and incidentals and things like that. And really collecting all that information. And the reason that I tell you to do that for 30 days is we have these unconscious spending habits. And years ago, I worked with a woman. She and her husband were both in their 40s. They had good jobs. They didn't have any kids, and they just spent money however they wanted to. And then she shared with us that she went to the doctor and found out that she was expecting twins. And so this was like a heart attack moment for her and her husband, because they had never had to be responsible for anybody other than just the two of them. And they could come and go. And if they wanted to go out of town or they wanted to go out to eat, it wasn't anything they had to think about. And now they were going to have two little ones to take care of, and all the diapers and formula and baby food and all the expenses that go along with having children. And so one of the things she shared with us is her doctor told her she couldn't have caffeine. And she was a person who every day on her way into work would stop at Starbucks and get a $5 latte. Never thought anything about it because she was in good, comfortable position. But when she started thinking about that, that's $25 a week, $100 a month, $1,200 a year. It's an enormous amount of money to be spending on a cup of coffee to drink on your way into work. And so even after she had the kids and she was able to go back to drinking caffeine again, she bought a travel mug and she made her coffee and she brought it with her on her way to work, because the equation for her was, is this cup of coffee really every day worth $1,200 a year for me? Or is there something else I would rather do with that $1,200? And for her, the answer was, yes, I need that money because I got to buy diapers and I've got to buy baby clothes and all that sort of stuff. But we all have those kind of unconscious spending patterns that when we really sit down and look at them, we understand and uncover that there are things that we may be doing that are not as important to us as we think they are, and we may be able to uncover that. And as we go through this process, the thing that I will tell you is there's rarely a silver bullet that's going to come out and solve all your problems for your finances. What we'll see is that there's a lot of little incremental things that you're going to do. Whether that's, packing your lunch and taking it with you when you go to work, or, not buying sodas from a vending machine. All these little things are going to add up to make a difference. And so those are the things that we want to look for, the things that we want to identify. And as we navigate this process, those are the areas where you're going to find opportunity to be able to carve out a little bit of extra money. And that maybe you use some of it for something else, or you put it into savings. But it's making sure that things are where you want them to be and you're moving forward in a way that makes sense for you. So if you want to go to the next slide. So again, same process. We're going to look at where our income is. We're going to understand where those sources of incomes are. And then the next slide, we're going to look at where our money's going. And so again, looking at a full 30 days to track all those expenses. And if we flip to the next slide, I think we'll have one more. Yes. So this is a traditional, what we call budget worksheet or spending plan worksheet. And when you've collected all that information, you've got all the information about your income, you've got all the information about how you're spending your money, it's going to be easy to transfer it into something that looks like this. And what you're going to see is on the left-hand side of the screen, those are things that are going to be pretty easy to fill in. Your rent or your mortgage if you own a home, cell phone payments, groceries to some extent, if you have a car payment, you know, all of those sorts of things, they're going to fill in pretty easily. It's the stuff on the right-hand side of the screen. And this is where, with the exception of the healthcare piece, this is where we're going to look for opportunities of how we can realign our spending patterns to make sure that our dollars are going where they want to go. The other thing about the right-hand side of the screen versus the left-hand side of the screen or this worksheet is the left-hand side of this is pretty much non-negotiable. If you rent and you go to your landlord and say, you know, I'm going to take me and my friends to Disney this year and I need to save $100 a month for that, I'm going to shave that off my rent. Landlord's probably not going to be too keen on that. Same thing with your cell phone or your LG&E bill or even your car payment if you have a car payment. Just not going to work that way. But like we talked about, if it's cutting out some of the fast food meals or if it's cutting out Starbucks trips or those sorts of things, then you can find some of those dollars to help set aside and find money for savings. Other thing that I will tell you is don't cut everything out. Don't think that you need to just be bare bones, no entertainment, no luxuries, no self-care, no personal care, because what will inevitably happen is you're going to do those things and then it's going to make you be out of alignment. So think about, you know, do you want to get your nails done or do you want to go get your hair cut or do you want to buy a video game, and build those things in so that you're not doing them and then trying to scramble to figure out how you're going to make things work at the end of the month or at the end of the next month. The other thing that I always encourage people to do is think about the big events. So if we were live, I'd ask you a trick question. When is Christmas? And people look at me crazy when I ask that question, but it's always December 25th. And when I ask, when do people really start thinking about the holiday season and that sort of thing, I get a variety of answers, as some as late as Christmas Eve and others all year round and some kind of in the middle, you know, the day after Thanksgiving. But if you really think through and think about all the things that you spend during the holiday season, whether that's entertaining and buying gifts, all of those sorts of things, and you set aside a little bit of money every month, when the holiday season comes around, you're prepared. And even if you don't have the full amount, you've got something to start with, and you're not trying to scramble and figure out what you're going to take from to be able to have a nice holiday season. Same thing with birthdays and anniversaries and any other kind of special events that occur year after year. You can really think about those and amortize those out to where you're putting a little bit of money aside every month. And when those events occur, then you're able to access that money and be able to do the things that you want to do. And so this is a really useful tool. It's not the only tool. This may, you know, if you're a pen to paper type person, this may be great for you. There are other things. You can download apps on your smartphone. You could use a spreadsheet program on your computer. Whatever method works for you, just figure out what it is and then stick with it, because that's the key to it. So if we go to the next slide. So this is where we sharpen our pencil and we start to do this realigning. And so if we go to that next slide, so what we recommend, and as a general rule of thumb, when you're talking about your income, we want to dedicate about 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings. So if we go to that next slide, we'll dig a little bit deeper. So when we talk about needs, these are things that are obvious. We need a house, we need gas and water and electricity, we got to have transportation, we got to have food. You know, if we do have loans, we've got to make sure that we pay those minimums. Cell phone, really these days, pretty much everybody needs a cell phone. So these are the essentials for living, and that should represent about half of your take-home pay or half of your net income. And then if we go to the next, when we talk about wants, these are the things that we have a lot of flexibility. And what we talked about is, you know, how often do we dine out? How often are we taking vacations? How often do we go shopping for clothes? And really be clear about trying to keep that at that 30% mark, and not saying that you're going to cut it down altogether. Although, you know, if you're trying to right size your spending habits, you may need to take a break from some things for a little bit just so that you can get things back into alignment. But it's something that you don't want to cut out thinking that it'll work that way long term. And definitely build them into your budget so that as they occur, you're not going to be surprised and taken off guard by having these expenses come up. If we go to the next slide, savings is really important. And one of the first savings goals that I would encourage you to consider having is an emergency fund. And these are kind of backwards as far as how they're listed on the screen. But there's a statistic that floats around that most households in the United States couldn't weather an unexpected $400 expense because they don't have the extra money. And what that does is create a lot of stress, because if you do have an unexpected expense, it's a challenge to figure out how you're going to fund that. And unexpected expenses happen in a variety of different ways. You know, you may get up to go to work and your car doesn't start, and then you need to have it towed in and figure out what's wrong with it. And, you know, it's $300 repair to get your car fixed. Or you get sick and you're out of work for a few days and you don't have that income coming in, or any number of things that can happen. You know, this summer I have two furnaces and air conditioner units in my house, and both of them went out at the same time. And so obviously that was a lot more than $500, but navigating those kinds of situations can be really tricky if you don't have any money set aside for those sorts of things. So work on trying to get yourself to a point where you have between $300 and $500 in a savings account, so that if an event occurs, then you have some money to pull out and be able to navigate that event and get yourself on track. So retirement, really, really important. If you're working or if you are receiving benefits, at some point, you know, you want to make sure that you have a cushion that's going to be there for you. So if you're working, investing in your retirement plan, if your employer offers one, is really, really important. Oftentimes employers will match those savings. And so, you know, obviously you would want to take advantage of in investing in those funds at least up to the point that your employer matches you, because you're essentially doubling your money in those opportunities. If you don't have an employer plan, there are things called individual retirement accounts, and you can do some saving for retirement through those types of vehicles. If you are on disability or on public benefits, there are also new accounts called the ABLE accounts. They're not all that new anymore, but they're still relatively, as far as awareness is concerned, new to consumers. And so if you are subject to some asset test limits because of disability or Social Security thresholds, the ABLE accounts do not count against those asset thresholds. And so that can be a way for people who are on disability or who are on Social Security to still be able to save money and to be able to plan for the future and plan for expenses that are down the road. And it's a way for other people who, maybe parents or other relatives, to be able to contribute funds to those to help support in the future. So that's definitely something that I would encourage people to think a lot about, and to start as early as possible with those types of savings vehicles, because we have another presentation that we provide, and one of the slides in it is one of my favorite of any presentation I've ever seen. It talks about the importance of starting early when you're thinking about saving for the long haul, and how if you start early enough, how little you really have to save in the long run. And so it uses this equation of, if you work for 50 years and every week you go out and buy a $2 slice of pizza on a Friday night with your friends, you'd spend $5,200 on pizza. But if you did that same $2 investment and you put it in an investment account that would give you an 8% return on investment, which is not crazy, you would have almost $65,000. And so you can see that, again, these are things about making slight changes and slight modifications in how your lifestyle is, can make a huge difference over the long term. So that's one of those things to think about. If you have children are thinking about college is tremendously expensive now. Student loan debt has now exceeded all other types of debt in this country. And so anything that you can do to help defer the cost of college expenses and to keep you or children from having to borrow money is going to be very, very helpful. And again, the sooner you start with that, the more money you're going to have when it's time for you or your children to go to school. So just thinking about that, keeping that in mind. So we want to go to the next slide. And here we're going to look at some ways that we can evaluate expenses and think about how we might cut down on our expenses. So if we go to the next slide, for most of us, our housing, our rent, or our mortgage is our biggest expense. And so generally what I would say is that if you can position yourself to purchase a home early in your adult life, that can be very beneficial for you over the long haul. Mortgage rates are very, very low right now. And I will say that it's a tight market for homes, but if you purchase your home, the nice thing is at the end of the mortgage, whether you do a 30-year loan or something shorter, 15, 10, you no longer have that payment. And so the other thing about owning a home is your mortgage payment is going to be pretty flat over the course of that loan. If you have a fixed rate mortgage, you pretty much know what your payment's going to be for the whole course of that loan. With rent, you pretty much can guarantee that every year, every few years, your rent's going to go up, and that's going to be one of those expenses that are going to continue to rise and can create uncertainty. And so this is one of those areas where if you are able to position yourself to be a homeowner, it can be very, very helpful. And the earlier you purchase that home, the sooner you pay it off, and the more equity you have and the more resources that you have to put towards other things. So if we go to the next slide. Transportation, if you're driving your own car, these are some things to just think through. Don't speed, keep your car tuned up, and make sure your tires are inflated. If you can ride share with people and maybe cut down on the cost there. But this is one of those things, again, small incremental little savings that can add up to bigger savings over time. And then the next slide. As I talked about, we are in a very low rate environment right now. So if you have car loans, or if you're looking at student loans or anything like that, really think about how you can talk to your lender, talk to your bank about, is there an option for you to refinance that debt and give yourself a lower rate? And if there is, take advantage of that, because it can save you money over the long haul. Also, talk to your insurance. A lot of insurance companies now are being more competitive with their rates because there's fewer claims because fewer people are driving, which, that's one of those things to think about. So next slide, please. This is one where you can also see some nice incremental savings as far as your utilities are concerned. You want to make sure that you're using energy efficient appliances, energy efficient heating and cooling, hot water heaters. All of those things can really suck up your and raise your energy costs significantly. And so if you can save $10, $20 here and there on your LG&E bill, if you can cut back on your water usage because you have a more efficient washer, or any of those types of things, those can again create that $20 or $10 or $15 every month that you can put into your savings, or you can put in towards something that's important for you. So the next slide. This is one where I think people really have the biggest opportunities for savings. And so a couple of things to think about with groceries. It's really, really good to have a planned menu for whatever period of time that you're going to the store. So if you go to the store every weekend, sit down and think through, what am I going to make each night this week? What do I need to make all that stuff? Put that on your list, because what will happen is we'll have the best of intentions. We'll go to the grocery store, we'll get our groceries in for the week, and then, come time to fix dinner on Monday night, didn't thaw anything out. What are we going to do? So let's order a pizza, or let's drive through McDonald's. And then you bought all these groceries and you're still eating out. And so if you have that, then it can take some stress out. So on Monday, I'm going to do grilled chicken. And so I lay the chicken out in the fridge before I leave for the day, or I set it down in the morning. And then when I get home, it's thawed and I'm ready to cook. Stick to your list. So if you do have children in your household, younger children, leave them at home. Don't take them to the grocery store. Don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. Kids, everything that's expensive and flashy is at kids' eye level in a grocery store. And so, and that's strategic, because they count on the fact that you're going to be embarrassed that your kids are screaming and crying because you won't buy them the cereal they want or the candy bar that they want, and give in. So just be aware of those things, that, if you're hungry and you go to the grocery store, then you're probably going to overbuy. If you don't have a list, you're going to overbuy. You could waste a lot of food. And these two things the last two things on here are really important. You can save a lot of money buying in bulk. So you think about Sam's Club or Costco. Be strategic. You don't want to buy a big, huge thing of crackers, because crackers go stale. But, if you get a good deal on laundry detergent lasts. And if you have room to store it, then that's great. But I would also really encourage you to use coupons. And couponing is so easy now compared to what it has been in the past. And so I recommend a website or an app called Crazy Coupon Lady. It's crazycouponlady.com, crazy with a K. In the app, in the App Store, just search Crazy Coupon and crazy with a K. What I like about this website is if you like particular brands. So I like Tide laundry detergent. So I can go on to this site and I can search for the best deals for Tide laundry detergent. And then I can make my plan to go get that. Or if you like shopping at certain places, or if you always shop at a certain place, so if you do all your shopping at Kroger, or you do all your shopping at Walmart, you can look at what the best deals are for those particular stores. And the nice thing is They're going to link you to coupons that you can either download and print, or you could download them on your phone and have them ready to go when you get to the store. And so you don't have to be kind of old school where you have your big envelope full of coupons or your binder full of coupons. Everything's all together, and we're ready to go to the store. So one thing that I will tell you, and something that I did several years ago that was kind of crazy, you can get yourself into a habit of running all over the place trying to chase deals. And one thing that I've done, my employer's prescription plan is through CVS. And so I buy a lot of household things at CVS because they have a rewards program and they offer a lot of coupons and discounts. And so, you know, I typically just go to CVS for things like laundry detergent, dishwasher detergent, body wash, things like that. And, you know, if you go to all of them, you can spend a whole lot of time and energy and money in gasoline running from Target to Walmart to CVS to Walgreens to Rite Aid. You know, if you kind of get into a rhythm, you can save a lot of money. And I saved $1,600 last year at CVS. I was one of the top 10% of their savers across the country, which is exciting. And that, again, is one of those things where I'm buying things that I would buy normally. I'm not going out and buying things just because I have a coupon for it, and I'm saving significantly on it. And so $1,600 is a lot of money. That's a nice vacation. It's a, you know, for a lot of people, that's a couple of 3 months house payment or rent. So it's one of those things, again, where you can create opportunities for savings if you really are strategic and thoughtful about it. So if we go to the next slide. So as we wrap up, what I would tell you is this is a journey. And so if you don't ever start the journey, you don't get to your destination. So I would tell you, if you make mistakes along the way, that's inevitable. We all are all going to have challenges. We're all going to have times where we miss that we made a payment or we didn't record something right, and things will be off balance. And so what I would tell you is that when it comes to spending planning and budgeting, it's something that you continually have to look at. And as your situation changes, as your expenses or your income change, reevaluate those spending plans and make sure that they're still on track and they're still headed in the right direction. Because if you wait 6-9 months down the road and start to evaluate things, you're going to be further behind. And so be honest with yourself, check in on a monthly basis, make sure you are on track. And if you're not, really dig in and try to figure out how to get back on track. And I will say, if you go to the last slide, I think, I will just do a quick call out. If you have questions and need more information, please feel free to contact me. My email address is adam, A-D-A-M, .hall, H-A-L-L, at 53, the number is 53.com. Happy to provide any support or resources that I can. We also have a lot of resources on our website, 53.com, and our app, which is Fifth Third Bank's app. So if we can help you, we are excited to be able to do that, and wish you the best in your financial journey. Thanks.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks.
Oh, good. Happy to help.